surprising fact here in Göbekli Tepe is that we have monumental architecture so early in the history of mankind. So we didn't expect it to have it so early.
12,000 years ago, before the wheel, before writing, before anyone on earth had planted a single seed of wheat, somebody carved a message into stone. Not just any stone. A 20-ton limestone pillar, standing 18 feet tall, decorated with creatures that shouldn't be there, and symbols that nobody alive can fully explain. For a century, we walked right past it. Farmers plowed the hilltop above it. Surveyors in the 1960s glanced at the rubble and called it a medieval cemetery. Nobody looked twice. Then, in 1994, a German archaeologist named Klaus Schmidt stood on that same hill in southeastern Turkey, looked down at the broken limestone poking through the dirt, and realized the entire world had it wrong. What lay beneath that hill would shatter the accepted timeline of human civilization. And now, artificial intelligence has taken a closer look at what Schmidt found, scanning the carvings at microscopic depth, mapping patterns across dozens of pillars, running astronomical models that no human team could process by hand. The results don't just challenge what we thought we knew about our ancestors. They suggest something far more unsettling, that this place was never a temple. It was a warning, and the warning was meant for us. Let's go back to the beginning, because the story of Göbekli Tepe reads like something out of fiction. The site sits on a barren ridge in Upper Mesopotamia, near the modern city of Şanlıurfa. The name translates to Potbelly Hill in Turkish, a modest label for what turned out to be the most important archaeological discovery of the last century. When Schmidt began his excavations in 1995, what emerged from the earth stunned the academic world. Massive, T-shaped limestone pillars, some standing over 5 meters tall and weighing up to 50 tons, arranged in precise circular enclosures. There are at least 20 of these ring structures identified so far, and geophysical surveys suggest as many as 250 more pillars remain buried underground. To this day, less than 5% of the site has been excavated. Think about that for a moment. We've barely scratched the surface, and what we've already found has rewritten the textbooks. The pillars aren't crude. They aren't rough-hewn boulders stacked by brute force. They have smooth surfaces, balanced symmetry, and intricate three-dimensional carvings. Lions with bared teeth, scorpions with curled tails, foxes stretching across the stone, vultures with outstretched wings. Some of the pillars have human arms carved into their sides and wear what appear to be belts and loincloths. They were shaped and sculpted with nothing but flint blades and stone hammers. No metal, no wheels, no draft animals. And here is the detail that turned the archaeological world on its head. Radiocarbon dating places the oldest enclosures at roughly 9,600 BCE. That makes Göbekli Tepe more than twice as old as Stonehenge. It predates the Egyptian pyramids by over 7,000 years. It is older than pottery, older than metalworking, and older than agriculture itself. The people who built it were not farmers living in settled villages. They were nomadic hunter-gatherers, or at least that's what we always assumed hunter-gatherers were capable of. Göbekli Tepe obliterated that assumption. Here's what makes this site so deeply uncomfortable for conventional archaeology. The standard model of civilization says it works like this. First, humans discover farming. Then they settle down. Then they build villages, develop social hierarchies, create religion, and eventually construct monuments. Agriculture comes first. Temples come later. Göbekli Tepe flips that entire sequence on its head. This monumental complex was built before farming, before permanent settlements, before any of the things we assumed were necessary for organized construction on this scale. The site contains over 100,000 animal bone fragments, evidence of wild game being butchered and consumed, but no signs of domesticated crops or livestock. No cooking hearths, no houses, no refuse pits. This wasn't a village. It was a gathering place, a destination that nomadic bands traveled to, possibly from great distances, to build together, to feast, and to carve their story into stone. A study published in the Cambridge Archaeological Journal used computer modeling to analyze the layout of the enclosures and revealed something remarkable. 3 of the main structures, enclosures B, C, and D, were planned as a single unified complex, positioned according to an equilateral triangle. The geometry was intentional. The researchers concluded that the builders likely stretched ropes to map out the shapes before setting a single stone. That's architectural planning. That's applied mathematics. From people who hadn't invented writing. And then there's the most haunting detail of all. After roughly 1,600 years of continuous use, the builders of Göbekli Tepe didn't abandon the site. They buried it, deliberately. They packed hundreds of cubic meters of soil, rubble, and stone debris around the pillars, sealing the entire complex underground. Layer after layer, enclosure after enclosure, interred as if the site itself needed to be preserved. Or hidden. Why would you bury the most impressive thing your civilization ever built? For decades, researchers studied Göbekli Tepe's carvings the old-fashioned way, with notebooks, cameras, and careful observation. They cataloged the animals. They sketched the symbols. They debated what the foxes meant, what the vultures meant, what the headless human figure on Pillar 43 was trying to say. Progress was slow, because the human eye can only hold so many variables at once. Then the machines got involved. Using high-resolution 3D laser scanning and LiDAR technology, researchers created a complete digital replica of the site. Every groove, every surface scratch, every millimeter of carved stone mapped with precision that no hand drawing could achieve. This data was then fed into machine learning algorithms designed to do one thing the human brain struggles with: detect patterns across enormous, interconnected data sets. And the patterns that emerged were staggering. When researchers analyzed the distribution of animal species across the site's carvings, they found something deeply wrong. Wrong in a way that only makes sense if you understand ecology. The animals depicted at Göbekli Tepe are overwhelmingly predators and scavengers. Vultures, scorpions, snakes, spiders, foxes, lions. These are the creatures that thrive in damaged, collapsing environments, the survivors of catastrophe. Conspicuously absent are the large herbivores, the deer, the aurochs, the wild horses that would have sustained healthy hunter-gatherer populations. The animals that fed people are gone from the record. What remains are the creatures that feed on death. This isn't a celebration of nature. It's a catalog of ruin. A memorial carved by people who watched their world fall apart and wanted to make sure somebody remembered what was lost. Think of it as a 12,000-year-old ecological disaster report, etched into pillars that weigh more than a shipping container. Sweatman's research didn't stop at Pillar 43. His team found that other pillars at Göbekli Tepe, Pillar 18 in particular, one of the 2 central monoliths of Enclosure D, also carried astronomical data. A carving of a fox, held under the arm of the anthropomorphic pillar, appeared to correspond to a comet. Its bushy tail resembled less an animal feature and more a cosmic trail of debris. The people of Göbekli Tepe, his analysis suggested, had a particular fixation on the Taurid meteor stream, the same stream of cosmic debris that modern scientists have linked to the proposed Younger Dryas impact event. They weren't just recording a one-time catastrophe. They were watching the skies, tracking the debris field, monitoring whether it would come back. And that's what transforms Göbekli Tepe from a mystery into something genuinely terrifying. This wasn't a temple built to worship gods. It was an observatory built to watch for the next apocalypse. The builders understood something that modern civilization is only now catching up to. The skies are not safe, and the danger is cyclical. Now the deliberate burial makes a different kind of sense. If the message encoded in these pillars was meant to survive, not for years or decades but for millennia, then burying the site was the smartest thing the builders could have done. Exposed stone erodes. It gets defaced, repurposed, robbed for building material. Every ancient monument left standing has been degraded by time and human greed. But Göbekli Tepe's pillars survived 12,000 years in near-perfect condition. The carvings are still sharp, the details are still legible, the message is still intact. They didn't bury Göbekli Tepe because they forgot about it. They buried it because they wanted us to find it exactly as they left it. The burial wasn't an ending. It was an act of preservation. A time capsule sealed in stone and earth, waiting patiently beneath a Turkish hilltop for someone to finally dig it up and listen. Here is the part that should keep you up at night. The torrid meteor stream still exists. Earth still passes through it twice a year, and modern astronomers have confirmed that embedded within that stream are objects large enough to cause regional or even global devastation. The fragments that may have triggered the Younger Dryas are not gone. They're still orbiting the sun, and our path still crosses theirs. 12,000 years ago, a group of hunter-gatherers with no writing, no metal, no technology beyond sharp rocks and animal sinew, looked up at the sky, understood what was coming, survived it, and built the most sophisticated structure of their era to make sure future generations knew about the threat. They succeeded. The message survived. We dug it up. AI decoded it. The question is, are we listening? Göbekli Tepe isn't just the oldest known monumental site in the world. It may be the oldest warning system ever built. A stone archive from a lost chapter of human history, constructed by people we drastically underestimated, encoding knowledge we're only now beginning to comprehend. Only 5% of the site has been excavated. 95% remains underground, untouched and unread. If what we've already found has rewritten the timeline of civilization, imagine what's still buried beneath that hill. If this video opened your eyes to something you didn't know before, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because the story of Göbekli Tepe isn't over. We're only at the beginning, and somewhere underneath that Turkish hilltop, the rest of the message is still waiting.